Good morning, Bitcoin. Today is Friday, January 19th, 2018. My name is Thomas Hunt, and here's what's happening today in Bitcoin. The price of Bitcoin was up 0.83%, with a last of 11,356, a high of 12,002, and a low of 10,974. That's $1 for 8,854 Satoshis. That's a good deal. Price has settled back into the $11,286 range. And we'd like to begin the show today with a quote from, no, that's not Greg Maxwell, but Richard Stallman. This is from the book Free as in for Free Software. This is towards the end, a chapter called Continuing the Fight. And Gilmore is talking about Stallman, and he says, writes Gilmore, my guess is that Stallman's writings will stand up as well as Thomas Jefferson's has. He's a pretty clear writer and also pretty clear on his principles. Whether Richard will be as influential as Jefferson will depend on whether the abstractions we call civil rights end up more important 100 years from now than the abstractions that we call software or technically imposed restrictions. There's another part about the GPL license that was another element of the Stallman legacy not to be overlooked, Gilmore writes, is the collaborative software development model pioneered by the GNU project. Although flawed at times, the model has nevertheless evolved into a standard within the software development industry. All told, Gilmore says, this collaborative software development model may end up being even more influential than the GNU project, the GPL license, or any particular software program developed by Stallman. As Gilmore says, before the internet, it was quite hard to collaborate over distance on software, even among teams that know and trust each other. Richard pioneered collaborative development of software, particularly by disorganized volunteers who seldom meet each other. Richard didn't build any of the basic tools for doing this, the TCP protocol, email lists, diff and patch, tar files, RCS or CVS or remote CVS, but he used the ones that were available to form social groups of programmers who could effectively collaborate. As Lawrence Lessig said, with the development of the GPL, a major bulwark of the current so-called digital commons, Stallman changed the debate from is to ought. He made people see how much was at stake, and he built a device to carry these ideals forward. That said, I don't know where to place him in the context of surf or linkletter. The innovation is different. It's not just about a certain kind of code or enabling the internet. It's more about getting people to see the value in a certain kind of internet. I don't think there's anyone in that class before or after. Stallman himself sees mixed signals. What history says about the GNU project 20 years from now will depend on who wins the battle of freedom to use public knowledge. If we lose, we will just be a footnote. If we win, it is uncertain whether people will know the role of the GNU operating system. If they think the system is Linux, they will have a false picture of what's happened and why. But even if we win, what history people learn 100 years from now is likely to depend on who dominates politically. We've got more articles from the mainstream media. The end of Bitcoin from This Week magazine, who once again writes an obituary for Bitcoin. Line him up with all the others. This Week magazine reports on how the Chinese authorities plan to block access to cryptocurrencies and says this will be the reason that Bitcoin dies. Once again, boring. What's the real story behind Bitcoin? Nobody knows, Forbes. Nobody knows. Check out the WorldCryptoNetwork.com. We've got links to all the latest videos. We've even got a donation address. You could send Bitcoin right there through the screen if you like these shows. We'd like to thank our recent donors 0.05, 0.000092496, and 0.0009. Thank you for your support. Quick check of the other markets. Bitcoin up 14%, Ethereum up 18%, Ripple up 56%, Bitcoin Cash up 20%, Cardano up 33%, Litecoin 22% up, NEM up 38%, NEO up 26%, and Stellar up 48%, with IOTA rounding out the top 10 up 24%. As you can see, it's a sea of green for the altcoins and for Bitcoins. The petition that Coinbase should prioritize SegWit development on BGDAX and Coinbase has 12,019 signatures. We are on our way to 15K. On our way. All we need is for you to sign. Check out the link in the description below. Spread the link on Twitter. Tweet the link at MadBitcoins, and I'll retweet. The petition poll that we had said we need 15,000 signatures for anyone to care. We are almost there, but we need your support. We've got big news from Blockstream. Greg Maxwell has left his role as Blockstream's CTO to focus on Bitcoin development. While we'll miss having him around on a daily basis, we're also happy that he's able to focus more of his attention on the Bitcoin ecosystem. Farewell, Greg. Perhaps this is the end of the Blockstream conspiracy theories, perhaps with Maxwell, the Bitcoin core developer, one of the most important core developers and most thoughtful, leaving Blockstream. Perhaps we'll be able to put that conspiracy theory to rest. More on that later during the Bitcoin group. Got another great animated GIF from @JimBTC. Let's watch. Guy's lost 98% of his value, 100%, 72. So many losses. But the veteran trader carries him through. Oh, 1328. It's a great GIF. Oh, he didn't make it. Ex-poker trader, veteran trader. Funny stuff from Jim BTC. And now the South Korea situation. Thanks to coverage from Joseph Wong. Serious rooters, enough is enough. This is edging on cryptocurrency market manipulation, not just irresponsible reporting anymore, because Reuters was reporting that South Korea is considering shutting down domestic cryptocurrency exchanges. But as it turns out, according to Joseph Young, who's actually on the ground in South Korea, number one, OKCoin and Huobi are launching in South Korea this year. Number two, South Korean government is considering Bitcoin futures. Number three, 10 more exchanges are launching in Korea. Number four, the debate about public blockchains versus permissioned blockchains is going on national TV. Does this look like a market that will ban trading? As you can see, the South Korean situation seems to be nothing but FUD, driven up by the mainstream media. I'm not sure why they're doing that. Maybe they have money in the game. Reddit. One Lightning Network transaction is 18,000 times cheaper than Bcash. 18,000 times cheaper. Let that sink in. That's why better technology is better. Adam Back correcting the history of Vinny Lingham, saying Vinny said that Vitalik wanted to create Ethereum on top of Bitcoin, but was denied by the evil Blockstream conspiracy. But in reality, Adam Back, who was actually there, who's actually credited in the Satoshi paper, who actually works on cryptocurrencies on the ground, not just as like a pitch man, says He doesn't believe that Vitalik was denied. He was talking with him before, and initially he was thinking Bitcoin, then Prime Coin, Metacoin. Then he realized he could make more money launching his own coin. Less FUD, please. He's not a fan of altcoins, but things should live on their own merit, not FUD. And it's not to be unfair to Vitalik or to be unfair to the Ethereum team to say that they wanted to make money and that they did make money and they were really successful at their goal of making money. It's not fair. It's not unfair. Perfectly good, reasonable. BitConnect investors left in the lurch as the token price drops 90%. And as you heard earlier, the BitConnect, they had some kind of website. You were going to do loans. Your money was going to be covered by the new people coming in. A lot of people have alleged that this was a Ponzi scheme the whole time. They shut down the lending website. People couldn't withdraw their Bitcoin or their BitConnect. Then the price dipped 90%. Now the whole market's calling a scam and a Ponzi. I don't know very much about this, mainly into Bitcoin. It's unfortunate that people lost their money, but so it goes, BitConnect. And finally, the reason I brought this up is they're saying on our cryptocurrency, which I'm hearing is a cool place to hang out these days, that a lot of the YouTubers who supported this BitConnect thing are deleting all of their videos. So that's really unfortunate that they supported it, and it's unfortunate that they're covering it up. According to this article, allegedly, Crypto Nick, Trevon James, and Craig Grant are among the YouTubers who promoted this scam and now are not taking credit for it. Now, if you got fooled by this scam, the best thing to do is just be honest about it and say, hey, make a new video. Hey, I got fooled. I'm stupid. I'm taking down my videos because I feel bad that I fooled other people. Just be honest about it. Tell the truth. And then obviously don't promote anything new in the future. Cover the news, talk about the price. There's plenty of topics to talk about without overtly promoting something. I've mentioned this before, not these guys personally or anyone else, or even not to even pick on Amanda, but a lot of people get into an altcoin, get a whole bag of it, and change their YouTube show or change their Twitter or whatever to be, mad fluffy coins. And then pretty soon all they're doing is promoting fluffy coins. So, people make their own choices, their own decisions. I get a lot of emails complimenting me on my integrity and then asking me if I'll sell out and promote whatever it is they're selling. So they're not really getting how integrity works. But we're going to go ahead and open up the call lines here. As yesterday, you could Skype us at WorldCryptoNetwork, all one word on Skype. I've got my headphones on. Got noise canceling on half the ears. Seems pretty weird. But we've got Skype open right now. We are active at World Crypto Network. Just give us a call right here in the chat. Otherwise, we're going to talk about whatever the chat would like us to talk about. Give us a super chat if you want to bust through the noise. Otherwise, we're rewinding the chat to the beginning. Thomas, close those tabs. You didn't even know how many tabs I had open yet. I have so many more. Everybody's having a good day. Ready for a breakdown of the Bitcoin news. They're saying hello from Vancouver, British Columbia, Edmonton, Alberta, I guess. A lot of Canadians. Eastern Washington, Kambata, Fala Kambata. I don't know what this means. Sorry. Richard Stallman is my hero, David Z says. I agree with that. You should live free. Stallman is God. Free software or die. Bitcoin Cash is Jesus. Not so sure about that. Stallman is greater than Jesus. Interesting. Possible. Stallman reminds me of Tom Bombadil in Lord of the Rings. So he's just kind of wandering around, giving you the knowledge, important characters. Let's see. More obituaries. You want to hear more Bitcoin obituaries? Sounds like fun. Let's see. The Chinese also blocked the internet. That's working out great. Yeah, it is really unfortunate that the Great Firewall of China was built by Western countries and Western companies. It's a sad part of technology that the internet wasn't able to bring the freedom that we hoped it would bring to everyone. But maybe it brought them part of the freedom or a sliver of the freedom. But you never know. I mean, the most interesting thing I think China is doing right now, if we're going to talk about China, is that Facebook type program where it monitors everything you do and monitors all your friends and connects them all together. And if you have friends that are revolutionaries, you lose points in the app. And then the government won't give you a loan, other things like that. It's a pretty interesting people control. And in one way, you could say it's designed to be positive, like they want their citizens to be good citizens and hang out with other good citizens. But on the other side, it could clearly be seen as negative. All right, so we've got our first call and we've got a super chat. Let's get the caller on the air, then we'll do the super chat. Hello, you're on the air with the World Crypto Network.
Oh, that was weird. Okay, first try. How you doing?
What's your name and where are you calling from today?
I'm calling from Seattle.
Oh.
I go by Sarimatsu.
All right, Salimatsu from Seattle. What do you think about Bitcoin? What's on your mind today?
Nothing. I love your show, man. I listen to it every morning on my commute to work, and I heard about this that you take calls, so I just tried it, and first try I got in. So I'm glad.
Awesome. Well, the chat says, will you be at Southwest by or South SX by SW, South by Southwest, the Austin Music and Technology Conference? I hadn't planned on it. How about you, caller? Will you be at South by Southwest?
Unfortunately not. But I keep an eye on it from afar.
Yeah, it's gotten more cryptocurrency related. I remember a few years ago they had maybe one Bitcoin speech, and then last year they had a whole Bitcoin crypto track, and then I'm sure this year it'll be a ICO mania, ICO hype fest kind of event.
Definitely, that seems to be the hot deal now.
It does seem to be. Have you found any ICOs that you're into or anything you're looking forward to?
I mean, as far as like mostly Ethereum tokens, there are some that I like Chainlink for decentralized oracles, and Sonam for world cloud computing stuff. Funfair, obviously, a lot of people like that for decentralized, provably fair gambling, those kinds of things. But I try to stay away from the obvious coins that are frowned upon by most crypto people, and I don't want to name any, but they know what they are.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's so interesting. There are so many ICOs and so many new projects. I haven't really heard of any of them, but I still wait for the traditional projects. I'd like to see Augur come out. I think they're getting closer and closer. I think Lisk might come out soon, and then Civic is another big one. Where a lot of people are interested in an identity play.
It's immensely expensive. Same with Gnosis. They're both just. People talk about bubble price going up crazy. Those are the two that really make me scratch my head. It's like there's no really product. Augur's been talked about for almost 2 years now. I remember it was one of the very, very first Ethereum projects. That was built on top of Ethereum, and I still don't have a prediction market. I still can't do anything yet as such, but it's like hundreds of dollars. So it's really weird, man.
It's been interesting. A lot of people are trying to say that they're just buying into the team, and something like Augur, it's got this. I know some of the Augur people, full disclosure, and Joey's a really good programmer, got a really good head on his shoulders. The things they've been doing at Augur to make it secure, they've been doing a lot of practice and test runs, and they've been trying to have people break the system, and so that's probably slowing them down a lot. But you'd like to see. I mean, there is a demo version of Augur. It is available, but you would like to see more user-friendly, more like simple demos. But then again, maybe I don't know what's better. Is it better to deliver a lot of demos or to wait a long time and deliver a really good project?
I mean, there are coins that are trying both avenues, so we'll see which one is more successful in the long run.
There seems to be no way to distinguish themselves through marketing. I get pretty much the same email from all these coins.
Yeah, and honestly, if I get something that's getting marketed too much, like Tron and stuff like that, I immediately just instinctually stay away from it. Even though I may, it's probably not it wasn't good for my wallet because clearly those things have rocketed more than I ever imagined. But at the same time, I just don't feel comfortable in getting on these things.
Well, I hate to promote it, but my friend Rhett wrote an article on Medium about my other friend Tone. And what Rhett did is he went through all of the crypto scam shows that Tona did, and he said, "Well, what if you invested 1,000 or 10,000 against Tone's prediction? If you had bought Pivex, if you had bought Litecoin, if you bought
Mm-hmm.
Ethereum, even." And much to Tone's dismay, at least at this point in time, maybe 2 years from now, it's totally different, and he's right on, and all these things
Correct.
fall. But at this point of time, he would have made a ton of money using
No,
Tone
I
as a
hear you.
counter indicator. And it's not like
And
Tone's even intending to be a counter indicator, or maybe he's not even not wrong. A lot of these things might be scams or they might fail, but there's no way of knowing. And there's so much market hype. People just love investing and gambling in these things.
yeah, and I don't know how much of it is really like the bad actors in the traditional market just pumping these things to oblivion, and then having people come in and get burnt, so they stay away from the crypto market because they bought something that was hyped and then crashed. So I don't know if we can't know these things because of the nature of the beast, but I could see potentially bad actors manipulating these little penny stocks or penny tokens, and bringing them up and bringing new users in and then just crashing it on them.
Well, and especially when you find out a little bit about how these ICOs work, a lot of them pre-sell the tokens, and if you give them like $100,000, they'll give you 150% of your investment. So if it comes
Yep,
out on the first day and it goes up, you could sell 100% of your investment, still have 50% riding,
correct.
and it's an incredible deal for these large rollers. And of course, they don't really care about the technology. They care a little bit about the team and the website and the presentation, but mainly they care about cashing out on the first day. So
Yes. And that's one of having no regulations is a double-sided sword or knife. So on one
it
side, you
really
don't
is,
want
and
regulators because
a lot of people freak out about the regulations, and they don't want any at all. And you give them, and then you say, "Hey, but what about all these scams?" And to their credit, a lot of these libertarians, they say those people should lose their money.
I mean, it's like the helicopter parent. Are you gonna let the kid learn, or are you gonna just helicopter around and make sure they don't do anything?
Well,
It's a double-edged
the
sword.
modern idea is to do the helicopter parenting and to control these kids' lives. And at the same time, my brother was talking this morning about millennials, and he said there's all these articles about how they don't trust banks, and it seems
Yep,
they're going to get out of the yard, and their parents aren't going to be watching them when they invest in cryptocurrency.
definitely.
Well, very cool. Thanks so much for the call, and
Thank
check
you
in
very
with us
much.
again soon.
Talk to you soon.
All right, bye bye. And you can call us now at World Crypto Network on Skype. Looks like we got another call. Hello, caller. You're on the air. Can you hear us? Trying to get some
Hey,
video.
what's up, Thomas?
Hey,
Thomas,
where are you calling from, and what's your name?
my name is Jeff. I'm calling from Idaho. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you good, and now I can see you. I'll see if I can maybe adjust the screen share. Put you on TV. So, how's it going? What's your question? What do you think about Bitcoin right now?
Hang on, I got some crazy echo going on here. Let me turn off YouTube.
Aha, that'll do it.
Yeah, so I went to a local meetup for cryptocurrency in Idaho here the other day, and there was about 30 people there, which was really cool. But it seemed like none of them were interested in Bitcoin at all. It's like they almost didn't even mention it. They were just kind of like, "Hey, I'm new to the crypto space. I've known about this for about a month, and I just want to get rich, and I want to know like what the latest pump coin to buy is." And it was a little bit disconcerting to me, being I've been into this since 2013. I've been watching your, Mad Bitcoins and the World Crypto Network for, since that time. So it's been really cool watching you guys. But yeah, I'm definitely a Bitcoiner, and it was disconcerting to see that a lot of the new people weren't even. It's almost like they're not even where they could buy Bitcoin in a way. It was kind of weird.
Well, I don't even think I don't think they're even interested. I mean, I met a lot of new people at conventions and Bitcoin meetups, and they just tell me about Ethereum, and they tell me about the next Ethereum token and this ICO and that ICO. And they're really excited, but they're only excited about the monetary possibilities, making that money. You tell them about Bitcoin, or you tell them about maybe the Federal Reserve, or your interest in sound money, or any of those things, and they're like, "What are you talking about?" And it's so it is a different crowd. It's a different crew out there.
Yeah, I always bring up like, oh, it's like a tulip bubble. In a way, they're like you have Bitcoin, and then around it, it's like surrounded by like this giant speculative bubble that's made up of these like ICOs and people just chasing like Ripple and buying up, just whatever Bcash or whatever. But um, so I think there's definitely truth to that whole bubble thing. I'm just not sure how it's going to play out. Like especially this year, I feel like that the altcoin boom is still kind of getting its curve going here. I don't know. What do you think about that?
It does seem like they come back each time that Bitcoin comes back.
Right on.
And they
Yeah.
always come back harder. I mean, I don't know. The pain point for me is a friend of mine is totally Ethereum rich, and all credit to him, right? He told me about it. He told everybody about it. He begged me to buy some. And just like so the last caller was saying about investing in Ripple or whatever shit coin you got to do to make the money. I couldn't do it, right? I couldn't bring myself to buy the Ethereum and make all the money. And I kept saying no, no, no. And it kept going up, up, up. And now you're like, of course, oh, I wish I'd bought whatever garbage it is so you could have the retirement money. And then you're looking at Ripple and whatever else the new one is. They go up until they go down. I mean, I still believe, and it's a horrible maximalist thing to say or whatever, but there's that point where Bitcoin hits the S curve and it's going up 100% every day, and everyone freaks out and they say, why am I holding these altcoins when I could be holding this 100% a day Bitcoin? Even if they believe the altcoins, even if they love them, eventually, if it goes up 100% a day, they'll sell. If that happens, if we're wrong, maybe there's two. Maybe Ethereum is number two. So.
Yeah, like also with the Lightning Network, the Lightning Network, it seems like more and more nodes are popping up on the network every day. So I think a lot of people said that it was about a year out. I really think that the Lightning Network is a lot closer than that. I don't know. What do you think about that?
I think it's pretty close, but again, with Bitcoin, you're dealing with money and you want it to work really good. If people lose their money, if they get it, crash or something goes wrong with this or that, it's a bummer.
For sure.
But I do think it's getting closer, and I also think that good solutions take time. We talked yesterday about the traffic and how you can just add more lanes, and that's a simple way of thinking about things. And developing flying cars or self-driving cars is a lot harder. But look at what they've done in the last 5 years. I mean, if you get one of these new cars with the sensors, it does practically drive itself. It stops itself. It can regulate speed with the car in front of you. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, for sure. I actually downloaded the Lightning app and was trying to get it up and running on my Mac, and it's definitely it's released, I guess, for developers to check out and try to implement. So there's a little bit of a learning curve, like trying to get that going. But hopefully I could get something working. Maybe I'll post some stuff up on Twitter. But I was wondering if maybe you guys could get like a demo on World Crypto Network to show like how you could maybe compile the app or kind of get it up and running for people that need to explain like their five, just to play around with it. I don't know. Would you think that would be a good idea? Or?
Yeah, I think that'd be fun. We could try to get Zach Mahlers. He's developing that Zap Lightning wallet, and maybe have him walk me through a tutorial or something like that. I mean, I can do pretty technical things, but I can also play dumb, and we can go through all the steps properly and really get it for the normal people and the people that might not have decompiled anything before. I don't know what level it's at. I don't know if it's a command line app or what level we're talking, but it would be great to try it out. I mean, it's tough these days. The world just cycles around to the next 24 hours, and you're doing another long show and you're doing another long show. And it's like, I managed to pin up the green screen today, but I didn't manage to try out the software. So I need a better plan on that one. But I've got Skype working now, and it's Jack Maulers. I said something else. Maybe we should call him Zap Maulers. What did I say?
think his wallet's called Zap, so I can see where that's confusing.
Yeah, we should just call him Zap Maulers. Done and done.
He has no choice in the matter.
No, he doesn't. Okay, so one more parting thought on Bitcoin. What do you think? Future is good. Anything excite you coming up?
Oh yeah, I mean, Bitcoin is always exciting. It's just my obsession. So I just feel that once we get past all this choppiness and all this, there's obviously some kind of insider trading happening within China and South Korea. Like, I mean, if you have the power to crash a currency and also have the ability to buy it, like those people are going to do that. That's definitely happening. So I think once we get up past all that stuff, then if we get a little upward momentum, I really feel like a lot of people's short positions are going to get stop lost or whatever. And you're going to have this kind of cascading FOMO situation where I think we're going to get back up to 20K by next month for sure. That's my personal thought.
All right, good news. Thanks so much for the call, and give us a call again soon.
Thanks, man.
All right. Everyone, if you'd like to call us, you can call us now at World Crypto Network, all one word, on Skype. Tell your friends what you're up to. So apparently I called him Zach Maulers instead of Jack Maulers. That's pretty close. He's working on the Zap wallet. Pretty similar. All right, we got a call from Dan Williams. How's it going, Dan? You're live on the World Crypto Network.
Well, hello again. Hey, I got a question for you.
All right.
I have actually had people ask me that they're worried that the Lightning Network may cause some centralization, and I guess I don't understand what the concern is or exactly how it works enough to address their questions. Do you know where that fear comes from?
Well, I think a lot of people are trying to spread that fear actively. I watched an animated video yesterday that claimed to explain the Lightning Network, and it really did for part of it. It explained it really well, and then it got into some questionable stuff, and they made some decisions on how things would go, and their decisions were very dark, and they did have it leave. I think there's some confusion about the hub and spoke model, and if that's a banking model, and or if it could be kind of captured. I think people are worried about two things. They're worried about they have a grand overarching block stream conspiracy where they believe that they are purposely changing Bitcoin structure from being person to person. They have a false belief that Bitcoin is truly person to person, like a lot of people have a false belief about America being a democracy when it's really a republic, right? We have more rules that separate us than direct connections. I think people would like everything to be person to person, and Satoshi talked about every computer having a vote, and that was a democratic idea. But in reality, the miners took most of the votes, and the nodes still have some. But in the Lightning hub and spoke model, there is a place for credit unions or banks or large holders of digital IOUs. The idea is, we're all in a baseball stadium and you got to pass the hot dog from Alice to Bob to Jim to Fred. And everyone in the line gets a little taste of the very small transaction fees. But it's an incentive to deliver the message. You want to deliver the message because you get the small transaction fees. And if you collect enough of them, it's something. The problem is those people might not be online all the time.
I have to do my initial deposit on one of the hubs then. I mean, if I wanted some of my Bitcoin on the Lightning Network, I would have to choose a hub and say, I'm going to use it like a checking account. I'm going to put my checking account money on.
Well, not so much that you'd put it in the hub. I think you'd have a payment channel that you'd open, and then your money would be on the Lightning Network. But I think that they're saying there's a possibility that it would be convenient to keep using hubs, and you might even purposely bounce your transaction through a hub so it would get delivered. Or these hubs might sniff every transaction so they know everything that's happening. And it's basically a lot of confusion about these hubs. and how they would be used, and if that changes Bitcoin for you.
Yeah. Okay.
But
I guess I'm feeling like maybe I'm just as confused as everybody else. So that's okay then.
yeah, and a lot of it's
I have a
still being
question for you.
developed, right? So
Yeah.
if we found something that was really bad and everyone agreed it was bad, we could change the way they're writing the software to exclude that section of badness. You know, if we could uh, identify it and separate it and explain how to identify it, you know, these kind of things.
The other question I've got for you is, before yesterday, I didn't realize that you were a studier of history. And I'm just wondering if you see any parallels in either the crypto community or the advent of crypto and what's going on now. Not necessarily to like tulip bubbles and things like that, but just in general, if there are any parallels historically to what's going on in our industry. I think that if you can kind of learn lessons from the past to anticipate the future, then you'll be much better off. So I'm just
Well,
curious.
part of the thing is you have to have a separation between kind of culture and mass culture. When we started the internet, when we started global television, the ability to spread software, to spread a product to so many people instantly changes everything. So before that, it's hard to find a direct example that links up with the adoption of a cryptocurrency. I think in that way, it's wholly new. You look at a lot of people that have adopted other currencies, or people using the dollar as a de facto currency, or a country like, I think it's Ecuador that uses the dollar as a currency, or one of the Latin American countries actually just uses the US dollar as their foreign currency. To find a real example to the Bitcoin, I look closer in history to the MP3. I was personally, you know, involved in MP3. I downloaded the software and I made some MP3s, and I instantly, it clicked over in my mind that we could take a WAV file that was so huge at, you know, 700 megs, reduce it to, you know, 30 to 50 megs, and send it around, save it on a CD, save it on a zip drive. So many of these options instantly opened up, as well as the idea that you could have this collection of music, listen to it on shuffle, that you could use it in your videos, or you could edit it or remix it. It seemed to bring the music into the computer. And I really feel the example there goes back to Pandora's box. Once the box was open, we couldn't go back. So Bitcoin, everyone says like, maybe you don't want Bitcoin to wreck the banking industry, or maybe you didn't want the MP3 to wreck the music industry, but no one had a choice once the box was open. Once we could compress those files and everyone in the world could download Frauenhauer's work, whether they liked it or not. And, you know, the compression engine was stolen, and the Bitcoin, you know, look at Bitcoin, the copies of Bitcoin that have been made, Litecoin and other things like this, just show again the level of innovation that we're at here, that this thing is so big, the only thing people can do in response is copy it and try to understand it through copying it and changing it slightly.
Well, and you know, that makes me think of, I heard one of the Q&As from Antonopoulos where somebody asked him, how do we keep people from moving money across borders and in and out of countries? And his answer was, you can't. It's done. It's too late. You're trying to solve the wrong problem, because this is, you can't stop this anymore. And technically nobody's moving money anywhere anyway. So you're right. Like the box has been opened and you can't close it again. And this is the way the world is. You have to get with the program of dealing with the way the world is, instead of trying to stop it from progressing. But on the MP3 thing, I guess I wonder if there's any parallels between, you know, Napster versus Kazaa versus LimeWire to Bitcoin versus Litecoin or Bitcoin Cash.
I see Napster a lot more like Coinbase, really. I was a MP3 purist, and I was into albums when people were into singles, and I was into discographies when people were into albums. And for me, it was always like these other things came along after MP3. So there was MP3, and there was a whole underground network of file sharers. and there was all these FTP servers, and you could get whatever you wanted. And then there's this thing that happened for all the normal people with Napster, where it was like, you can get the song you want. And that's really cool. And you can get a bunch of songs, and you did a lot of clicking, and it was a lot of manual work, but no one cared. The interface was easy for them to use. And that's Coinbase, right? It's an easy to use interface. You can get your Bitcoin, but you don't have to learn about hardware wallets, and you don't have to learn about encryption or storing your own key or any of that stuff. Just like the people using Napster didn't know that the MP3 was a file compression, right? That we're really talking about, I don't even know how to explain it, but a complex way to shrink a file, whatever the magic is. And maybe it makes the music worse, but it shrunk the file, and that was the magic. And Bitcoin, the Byzantium generals problem, the blockchain, the token of value. If you buy your stuff on Coinbase, you don't have to know any of this. They don't try to teach you it. It doesn't really matter. So that's my analogy on that.
Right. Well, I guess that's it for me. So,
well, thanks for the call, and give us a call again tomorrow, or we'll just keep doing this. It's a fun show.
Bye.
Thanks so much, and you can give us a call now on Skype to @WorldCryptoNetwork. We might do another station identification with a book reading here. I've got Cormac McCarthy's "No Country for Old Men." Doesn't have a lot of markings in it. Looking for a good one. Let's see. That's just a chapter. He hiked along the ridge with his thumb hooked in the shoulder strap of his rifle, his hat pushed back on his head. The back of his shirt was already wet with sweat. The rocks were etched with pictographs, perhaps 1,000 years old. The men who drew them, hunters like himself. Of them, there was no other trace. Let's see. Finally, he looked at her. After a while, he said, "It's not about knowing where you are. It's about thinking you got there without taking anything with you. Your notions about starting over, or anybody's. You don't start over. That's what it's about. Every step you take is forever. You can't make it go away. None of it. You understand what I'm saying?" All right. Looks like we've got another call coming in. And we're just going to pause for a second. This is the World Crypto Network. All right, we're back on the World Crypto Network. We had a call here. We'll call him back. Hello, you're live on the World Crypto Network. How's it going?
Hey, can you hear me?
I can hear you. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, how's it going, Thomas? My name's Callum Campbell. I'm from Port Elizabeth in South Africa, all the way down the bottom of Africa.
All right, South Africa. What are you thinking about Bitcoin today?
Man, Bitcoin is so important, and I think you guys in the United States lose sight of the fact that Bitcoin is more than just being able to send Bitcoin. It's a store of value. And that's what us, like in South Africa right now, South Africa is the country that's searching for Bitcoin the most in the world on Google Trends. Because we have inflation here, we have crazy inflation, we have government corruption. And so being able to send Bitcoin is not the most important thing. It's having censorship resistant money that's away from the powers of the government.
So you have actual need for censorship resistance. So would you say people in South Africa mainly want to buy Bitcoin and hold it to save their value for the future, or do they need to transact with it?
To be honest, we've got 70% of the people in Africa are unbanked, as far as I know. And the banking systems are not very bad. Doing transactions, in African countries, it's not very expensive to use the banks. And for everyday purchases, for buying food and groceries, Bitcoin is not ideal. And the thing is, you don't want to spend an asset that's limited in supply, that's only going to go up in value. So a lot of the people in South Africa are purely looking at it as a way to invest and store their value.
So do you think this idea could spread to other countries, that other people would hear about Bitcoin, see it as a store of value, and then just accept, that maybe it has high fees, or maybe it's growing really quickly, and still want to store their value in there?
Well, you can see that even in Africa, the trend is starting to spread. I mean, I know about the rest of the world, for instance, China and Korea, and Asia's looking closely at it. I know the States is looking closely at it. But just in Africa, I mean, we've got Ghana, and I'm not too sure how legit that article was about Ghana and the central bank wanting to invest like 1% of their reserves into Bitcoin.
That was an exciting article if that comes true.
It will be exciting. And once that starts happening amongst the first African countries, there's going to be a competition and a rush to get through the door. And as 80% of the Bitcoin's already been mined, there's not that much supply left to go around between these big banks and governments. And so I think people selling now, based on the fact that Bitcoin is not that great to send around, need to understand that they are investing into a technology that is still emerging and still being developed. And one of the comparisons that I like, and I think that it was actually you that used this analogy, was that in the beginning, in the early stages of the internet, it wasn't that easy to upload or even stream a video, or for us to have a Skype conversation would not have been possible, and for you to stream to your viewers via dial-up. And as the internet progressed and different technologies were built on top of it, the real use cases started to emerge. And so people just need to be patient when it comes to Bitcoin.
Well, that's why it's so exciting to hear from you in South Africa. I mean, when I started this show years ago in my bedroom or in my closet, there weren't a lot of people talking about Bitcoin, and we knew that we had the technology, that the undercurrents were there, and the connections and the way it worked were great. But what we need is that kind of worldwide mind virus, right? We need everyone to hear about Bitcoin, think about it, reject it, check it again, buy some, start checking it every day, whatever it is. And it really feels, strangely enough, like that's actually happening now. Like that people are catching on to Bitcoin. Like the Venezuela thing, it started out really slowly, and you could kind of say, this is more of a good thing to write an article about than an actual movement of people mining Bitcoin in Venezuela. But, when you hear your story from South Africa, or we had a caller yesterday from the Persian Gulf, and other callers from all over the world, everyone really is getting into Bitcoin. The excitement is starting to spread.
Yeah, I mean, it's just fantastic. And we are only so early on into it that people need to see the long term. The internet, since its inception, if you had to go and ask people 20 years ago if they had an email address, only the really early adopters or people who really needed an email address had it. And we've progressed to a world now where it's such ease of use. No one sends post anymore, because email is clearly the better thing, the better solution. And now if you go and ask anyone if they have an email address, it's almost a mandatory requirement for getting a job, or for applying for university, or whatever the case, to have an email address. And this Bitcoin and the technology that Bitcoin uses is going to become as commonplace and as important for the financial system as the internet was for communications. We just need the technology to develop.
I completely agree. And I feel 1,000 years old having lived through all this. But I remember when email was a huge deal, and I told everyone the postal service was going to have huge problems, and there's all this potential problem. But even then I thought Amazon could save the postal service with the deliveries, because I was already getting lots of Amazon deliveries as soon as they started selling books. But to go through all this, to see the MP3 and the email, and even just the internet itself kick off, and to see this Bitcoin, as Andreas describes it, this internet of money, and that all these different applications, and really we are coming for the banks. We are coming for the financial industries. This is, as much as there's a wave out there that's going to roboticize all jobs and we're not going to have any cashiers or truck drivers anymore, I'd be worried if I was a stockbroker, if I was a market guy, or if I was involved in even the higher ends of law, the upper ends of corporate law. If you can have a computer smart contract that's written essentially by a form and a helper person that helps you fill out the form, what do you need a fancy lawyer for?
Well, exactly. And I think it was even again on the World Crypto Network, and it just shows you how powerful the message is that you guys spread. And you know, a lot of the things you've said have resonated with me, and the analogies you've used have just stayed with me. But I think it was again you, Thomas, that said that the phone companies were very resistant to internet and to internet infrastructure because they thought it would never take off and never be used. And look at the situation we're in today. So I think it's gonna be the same with the banks. The guys who want to reject and put Bitcoin down and call it a fraud can do what they wish. But as people move toward the technology that suits their needs better, you know, the banks who don't offer the services, or you know, offer some sort of Coinbase third party, I don't know what's the word, holding of Bitcoin for their customers or something, the banks who don't offer Bitcoin related services are going to fall by the wayside. The same way telephone companies who didn't transition onto the internet did.
Well, and what I like so much about Bitcoin is the optimism. I used to be involved kind of in the conspiracy theory genre, and it's not very optimistic. It's very negative. You think that your opponent has everything and you have nothing. And I was looking at the Federal Reserve and these other banks, and I was like, how can we change this? How could we vote this out? How can we peacefully change this? And I couldn't find any way. And I was also studying Aikido, and I learned how a small person can flip a larger person, and how if you pull their legs out from under them, everyone falls down. And that's what I think Bitcoin is to the banks and to the financial system. It's this new flipping and this Aikido where it's a better system, and it's kind of, they get stuck in it and they can't get out. And it's a cause for optimism. Bitcoin allows us to develop, even if I wasn't crazy about them, all these altcoins and all these ICOs and all these projects and all this software. And hopefully some of it gets open source and some of it gets released and people use it and they like it. And it's so great to be involved in something with so much optimism and so much new development. And it really is limitless. And it also reminds me of early Star Trek when they had the communicator, and you were like, that's amazing. He has a little device in his hand. He can communicate with anyone, anywhere. And that idea, the science fiction idea of communication, led to the computer geeks who built the phones. They built the cell phones. They built the internet. They built all these things to resemble the ideas that other people had. And that's where the value in this and the value in sharing your ideas come, is that sometimes people do build the optimistic version of them. Sometimes they build Skynet, but there's also optimism. So.
Exactly. There's just so many good things coming. Anyways, Thomas, I think I'm going to be off. I just want to thank you so much for the World Crypto Network, all of the shows. I mean, every time I've been on YouTube, you guys have been streaming, I think, and it's just been fantastic. There's a lot of people in the Bitcoin world, and you know, when we don't know what's going on in the markets, it's nice to have a place where we can all come to, where you guys can share ideas and share the news and keep everyone. It's such a great community feel. That's the World Crypto Network and the Bitcoin community in general. You know, it's just a really good community that we have. So anyways, I just want to thank you, and to anyone listening, just buy and hold. Don't stress about the price. We've got a Bitcoin halving coming in 2020. So buy and hold.
All right. Thanks so much. Thanks so much, Colin. And thanks for the kind words there. It's really nice to know that what we do is appreciated, and we try hard to do good here and to spread the word. They say the name of Aikido, isn't that the name for Dogecoin? No, that's a Shiba Inu. There's an Aikida. Yeah, that is a dog. Let's see. So that was a good call. If you'd like to call us, you can call us now at World Crypto Network on Skype. Give us a call. We'll talk. Now we've got another reading, if I can find a nice one, from Charles Bukowski, the poet. Let's see. That's not very crypto related. Let's see if we can find one. This is from the book The Last Night of the Earth Poems. Bukowski wrote a lot of poems. He wrote a lot of different things. Not sure if it's connected to anything. The book seems to fall open to this poem, so I'm going to give it to you anyway. I think it has a little, if you use Buddha for Satoshi, maybe you find a connection. My buddy, the Buddha. I must wash this Buddha that sits on my desk. Dust and grime all over him, mostly on his chest and belly. Ah, we have endured many long nights together. We have endured trivia and horror. At unseemly times, we have laughed. Cleanly, now. The least he deserves is a good going over with a wet rag. Truly terrible have been some long nights, but the Buddha has been good, quiet, company. He never quite looks at me, but he seems to be forever laughing. He's laughing at this muck of existence. There's nothing to be done. Why clean me? He now asks. I will only dirty again. I was only pretending at some dumb sanity, I answer. Drink your wine, he responds. That's what you're good at. And, I ask, what are you good at? He returns, I am good at almost watching you. Then he becomes silent. He holds a circle of beads with a tassel. How did he get in here? Looks like we're getting some contacts on Skype. Nope, they're not ready. Let's see. How about this guy? Gotta watch out for that World Crypto Network. If you call us, we'll call you. But you can call us right now on Skype at World Crypto Network. All one word. It is 11:15 on the West Coast, Pacific Standard Time. The price of Bitcoin is 11,322. Like it's gone up a little bit, maybe. And now I think we have another reading from the book of Satoshi. Oh, here we go. Hello, caller. You're live on the World Crypto Network. How's it going?
Hey, how's it going, man? I'm glad I got through. I was trying to do this for a little bit here.
What's your name and where are you calling from?
My name is Mustafa, and I'm calling from Chicago.
All right, welcome to the show. What do you think about Bitcoin, Mustafa?
I love Bitcoin, man. I've been involved with Bitcoin for going on 4 years now.
That's a long time. You must be filthy rich. Isn't that what everyone says?
I must be filthy rich, right? Yeah, that's all of my friends think, but it's not the truth. No, I just bought a little bit and I kept it, you know, and I traded it and lost it early on, just learning how to, you know, learning the whole about the whole industry. You know, and you know, calculating today, yeah, you know, I probably lost thousands and thousands of dollars worth of Bitcoin, but it was worth it. Definitely worth it. You know, the lessons that you learn are great. And nowadays, I'm easily the most educated when it comes to cryptocurrency and the people that, you know, in the circle of people that I know.
Isn't that amazing how quickly it turns?
Network, man, I really like your live shows and everything. I recently discovered you guys, and I'm so glad I did.
Well, very cool. Welcome aboard. And isn't it amazing how at first you're this novice at cryptocurrency, you don't know anything, and now a few years later, suddenly you're an expert to all of your friends.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, they make me feel that way. I certainly don't feel that way. But they've motivated me to, step my game up, and do more research. And that way I can answer their questions. I feel obligated to be that guy.
Well, and what do you think of what one of the previous callers said, where we were talking about how everyone's into the altcoins and everyone's into the ICOs, but they don't even care about Bitcoin? Have you found that to be the case?
I have found that to be the case, unfortunately. Even really close friends of mine that I try to put them on the game and let them know what this whole industry is really about. They always come to me and say, "Oh, you should be buying Ripple or you should be buying Cardano and all these non-mineable cryptocurrencies, which to me are not cryptocurrency at all." But it just I try to convince them. I try to educate them as much as I can, but people see profit, and that's kind of blinding.
Well, and especially when people have profited so much off of these coins. I used to advise against Ethereum, and now I feel very embarrassed that I said that. But that's the way of the world. And sometimes even if you know something's a good thing, you still don't buy it just because you don't want to make your money that way. But then after you see everyone make so much, you kind of give up those morals, right? You're like, I'll buy anything if it goes up.
Right. I mean, and I'm not gonna lie. I need to be honest with you guys and myself. And I've bought Ripple. I've bought Ethereum. I've bought a whole bunch of other altcoins. I still am holding 10, 15 different kinds of altcoins. Not mainly because of their price going up, but in the beginning when I hear about something, it sounds interesting. I'll invest a little bit of money into it, a little bit of my Bitcoins or whatever, and I'll keep doing research. And then one day I realized that whatever they're promising isn't really happening, and you always have to fall back to the one that started it all. The true decentralized disruptive technology, which is Bitcoin and nothing else.
And that's really the thing. When you invest early in one of these altcoins, what you're investing in is the hype cycle. You're hoping that other people get excited about the idea and that they invest after you, pumping up your investment, and essentially you can dump it on them. And that's just the way of the world. That's why everyone says with these altcoins, they're investing in the altcoins to get more Bitcoin. And I say stupidly, why don't you just hold your Bitcoin? But all these people have been killing it. They've been bringing home, condos in San Francisco in altcoins.
Right. I mean, and I know there's a moral debate with people that do that. Where the end goal is just to increase your bag of Bitcoin, regardless of who you're pumping and dumping on. And I know I've been a victim of getting dumped on many times early on, and I don't want people to feel that way. That's why when everybody was talking about Ripple, when it blew up to like $3, and everyone was saying, "Oh, buy Ripple." It was like on TV, and I kept telling everyone like, I've had Ripple. I'm not gonna tell you don't buy it because I'm not buying it. I've bought it, but I no longer believe in in what they're doing. And at first it seemed like a good idea, but once I did the research that I should have done beforehand, it seems like a complete scam. Just like you can compare it more to BitConnect or any other Ponzi than you could to anything substantial.
Well, remember, there's a psychological effect to this bandwagoning here. If you see the guy on TV talking about Ripple and you follow his instructions and you buy yourself some Ripple, and the next day he's talking about Ripple again, you feel good. You made a good decision. You followed what the guy on TV said. You didn't research it. And even then, it's so hard because you see these things go up and you think, is $3 the top? 6 months from now, we could be talking about $5 Ripple. Even with the hate, even with people not liking it, these cryptocurrencies are crazy. The amount of interest, the outside demand is pushing them up. And then you've got these Ripple millionaires running around. You've got real millionaires entering the market, running around, pumping and dumping things. And then now with this futures thing, you know, all the Wall Street traders are in, the guys who actually do this stuff for
And
real.
honestly, this is the reason why I was calling you, is to ask you a question about the CME future contracts that conveniently expired yesterday around the exact same time that Bitcoin hit the bottom of like 9,200 or whatever it was. And it just, I can't, I can't take credit for coming up with that or putting two and two together. I recently watched a video on YouTube. I don't remember by who exactly, but they brought up the point that these future contracts that started up, mid-December or whatever it was, when the price was way up, and then it's obvious that all these contracts got shorted, right at the time that the price dropped all below 10,000. So to me, it looks like it was heavily manipulated by the same people. Right.
Well, I agree. And I don't know where the source is either, but everybody's been kind of bubbling up. They said if it recovers yesterday around 2 o'clock, that means the fix is in, and that the Wall Street money have outplayed all of us, and that we all need to bow down to the real master manipulators. All the Fontuses and all the pumps and the dumps, and this one went up and that one went up. The real ballers are here, and they just took a whole lot of people's money, where, like you're saying, they had bought the futures contract for Bitcoin to go up. They bought what they thought was the hottest ticket in town, and it had expired in a couple of months or whatever. Boom, Wall Street just took all your money, and they love doing it. They're going to do it again. And the other beauty of this is that if you were futures on Bitcoin, you're probably on the right bet, but your investment horizon was too short. If they made it go down last time, there's no reason they can't make it go up this time.
Exactly. So really, even though they do have the power to manipulate, they don't have the power to cover it up, because we're all in it. Now, I feel like the best thing that Bitcoin is bringing to the world is awareness of the financial world and how it operates. It's very similar to revolutions that happened in countries the past few years, where most of these countries didn't really, the people of the countries weren't really paying attention to politics. But after revolutions happening in those countries, now people really pay attention to what's happening. So I feel like that's very similar, but in the world of finance.
Well, remember, the finance industry, much like the computer industry, is protected by a wall of jargon, right? They use a bunch of special industry terms so that normal people can't understand what they're doing. And I agree, we're starting to see through that now. I remember when I learned about things like high frequency trading, and that they were actually measuring the length of the network cable. And if you were closer to the server, you were a millisecond faster or microsecond faster, and you could clean out the other guys. And that eventually they had to cable up 50 feet of cable and give everyone the same amount of cable, so that all these computers would have the same amount of chance to high frequency trade against each other. And all of your old ideas of the stock market and the guys with the paddles down on the floor doing the trades, oh, that goes out the window as soon as you learn about high frequency trading. And that's to say nothing to learn about the Federal Reserve and how money is created and all the little secrets. And they cover it up with all these fancy words and fancy language, and you think you can't learn it. And maybe the common man looks at money creation and shrugs their shoulders and pretends we're on the gold standard and doesn't bother to learn anything. But Bitcoin draws you into that. Don't you think?
You'd be so surprised how many people I bring up the whole money argument, like what is money and what do you think money is, and they still think that we're on the gold standard. They think that the whole world, all the world's banks still have that much gold to back up their monopoly money. But we all know that that's not true, and it hasn't been for decades.
Well, and even the banks themselves are very pleased not to be on the gold standard. They'll tell you themselves that they have the way that modern, American, whatever you want to call it, positive capitalism works, is that they keep printing money, and then they keep pumping up the economy to pay back the money they printed, but they can never quite pay it back. So you have to keep blowing up that bubble. That's why environmentalism was such a problem, because conserving things, saving things, reusing things, That's not capitalism. Capitalism is blow that bubble up, buy more products, have them go bad, buy more products, have them go bad. Like that's the system we have, and that's because of the way the money is built. We have to blow up that bubble. These companies have to make more money. They have to meet their stock evaluations. Their stocks have to go up. It's not good enough for your stock to go sideways or to maintain the value. This is capitalism. It has to go up. And Bitcoin changes that. Bitcoin actually teaches you to save. If you save your money in Bitcoin, you'll have more money, probably because of the way the units are set. Right now, we're in a lot of hype cycles, so it's affecting things. But in the long run, 100 years from now, 0.01 in Bitcoin is going to be worth a 0.01 in Bitcoin. And I'll bet it's going to be worth a lot more if there is a fiat currency or in the other systems.
That is exactly. I completely agree with you, and I'm very excited at this, to be a part of this, and not just hear about it 10 years later. That like, oh yeah, if you would have done this back then, you would have bought a Bitcoin for $1,000, in 2017, you would be a millionaire today, and all that stuff, so it's very exciting times we're living in, and I'm very optimistic. Maybe not so much for the near future, because I feel like we should be getting ready for like major war in the whole industry of finance with the world. But that's why I tell anybody that's new and about to get into Bitcoin, I tell them, don't look at a short-term profit. This is a long-term investment. This is how you will be able to keep your wealth from disappearing or from being stolen by whichever country you live in.
Yeah, it's not just an investment, but it's a future. It's a future where your investment will still be there.
Exactly.
Yeah, it is really exciting, and it's exciting the way everyone can be involved. And even right now, 99% more than all your friends. That's just to show you how early we are, and that as tough as it may be to try to, I haven't even tried this myself, but if you try to convince your friends to buy a Bitcoin at 15,000 a Bitcoin or 11,000 a Bitcoin we're at right now, everyone knows 11,000 is a lot of money. I could pretend that 1,000 isn't that much, or maybe 100 is not that much. But now we're into these real big numbers, and you tell them that you think it'll go up more, and it'll go to 30 or 50 or 100, and their eyes kind of glaze over, and they think even now, even now they think that you're a Bitcoin nutcase. They think that like we've gone from 1,000 to 10,000. And you're like, yeah, I could see it going from 10,000 to 100,000. And they're like, you're some kind of nutcase. But really, if they would buy in now, if they would dollar cost average, just buy $100 a week or buy $10 a week, eventually they would probably have more money. So
exactly. Last year this time when I told everybody, I predict, I think Bitcoin was less than $1,500, and I was telling everyone, I'm pretty sure by the end of the year we're going to be around $6,000 for one Bitcoin, and they all looked at me like I was crazy, and I got laughed at. And once we hit that number well before the end of the year, and that's really when most of these people that were laughing at me started calling and asking me how to get involved, and they've all made profits since then, obviously. Maybe not so much as they thought they did back in last month, but they understand it, and they're starting to understand it even more, and I just, I'm, like I said, I'm very excited about it. I'm very happy that, we're still in the point where, I can talk to people that are basically like front runners of the industry, like yourself, and you guys are, not to the point where you're getting 1 million callers, and it would be impossible for like a normal person like me to get through and talk to you live on your platform. So it's very exciting to be a part of this, and thanks for taking my call, man.
Well, thanks so much for calling. And we are very early. There's still lots more room for everyone to get involved. And just like we said, 4 years ago, just like we say now, Bitcoin has no central company. There's no Bitcoin CEO. There's no Bitcoin marketing department. So it's up to everybody to go out and tell their friends about Bitcoin. And maybe these days, as strange as it is, you go to your friends and they've already heard about Ripple or Ethereum or something, and you have to explain to them that there's this older one, there's this, you know, stronger one called Bitcoin, and maybe sell some of the reasons for that. And maybe even then, you don't have to try to convince people to give up their religions, and that's what it's starting to be with these altcoins. But I think you can sell them on the new religion of spreading your money out, putting it in diversification. You can put your money in multiple baskets, have percentages, and I think strongly Bitcoin should be one of those baskets.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, I always open the conversation up by saying, you know, if you are investing in fiat currencies, you would always want to have the most dollars because they are the like world reserve currency, the most commonly used in the world. I guess it's not the best argument just because the dollar wasn't the first fiat currency ever created. Like Bitcoin is the first ever of its kind. But that's how most people understand it. I say, whenever you're cryptocurrency investing or cryptocurrency trading, always calculate your profit losses or any numbers in Bitcoin. Never calculate in anything else, because as you can see with how the market goes, whenever the Bitcoin price goes down or up or does anything, it affects the whole cryptocurrency market. So it is the one that's in control.
Well, we did talk about that a little bit yesterday, and I wish there was I don't know how to fix this, but I wish there was a better website where you could get the price of Ethereum in Bitcoin, the Ethereum to USD conversion, and that we could start, as much as they're going to call me maximalist, whatever, that we could use that as a standard. Because a lot of people have been saying, oh, Ethereum went to this and Ethereum went to that, but it hadn't recovered against the Bitcoin price. Bitcoin had gone up more, and it does seem to be this confusing math equation to keep converting your value back to Bitcoin, to convert your value back to this, to see how much you made. And even I do it all the time as a shortcut. I look at the Blockfolio app and I say, oh gosh, my goofy altcoin investment's worth this much now. It's worth that much now. And I'm excited. And but I don't know if I want to look back at the Bitcoin and say, well, gosh, I could have just held Bitcoin instead of these goofy altcoins. But from a financial perspective, I probably should. I should probably have that information.
Exactly, and that's the argument I try to make all the time. That just buying Bitcoin and holding onto your Bitcoin is a safer and most likely a better bet. For return on investment than any other altcoin. The risk is so much higher with the altcoins, and people's arguments are like, oh well, Bitcoin is $10,000 and this altcoin is 3 cents. And I don't really understand that argument. It just means that someone is not looking at the numbers correctly, because it's really all about percentages. So it doesn't matter, what the price of the token is or the one coin. It's all about percentage gains or losses.
There's still something in the people's head. They want those cheaper tokens. And when you have a site like Coinbase doing no education at all, just presenting them on a line, here's number one, here's number two, here's number three, here's number four, buy at your own risk. It's no surprise that they don't know anything.
I don't even think they put that disclaimer in there. Buy at your own risk. They don't even care. It's a for-profit company, so I guess you can't blame them. But it is what it is. It's like the old legacy system trying to take advantage of this new industry. And
remember,
we'll learn.
As much as people don't like to say that we're just repeating history over and over again, but about 100 years ago, we had this same issue with the stock market. We had all these trusts and we had all these fly-by-night day trading stocks, and the stocks would go up and down, and they were all fake. And it's the same story over and over again, and it drives the libertarians crazy. But we fixed it last time with regulation. We might fix it again this time with regulation. But then the beauty of true Bitcoin, the beauty of real decentralization, maybe these altcoin trades can go on forever. Maybe they're unstoppable too.
Right. And actually, I that's what I believe. I believe that, altcoins are here to stay. I don't think that one day altcoins will disappear completely. I feel like you'll have an altcoin for everything eventually. you know. And you know, you guys were talking earlier about the Lightning Network. I don't fully understand how it works. I kind of do. I've been reading on it and watching some content on it the last few weeks. But basically, it seems like eventually you'll be able to, instead of investing in a company by buying stock or shares, you'll just use their token. Or, you know, you'll be obligated to use the token for a certain company, like Pepsi, for example. So you'll have to use Pepsi coins to buy a Pepsi, or you know, Walmart coins to buy anything at Walmart. You know, and in a way, you're using that as an investment in that company and as the currency for it.
I'm horrified by this idea, but at the same time, I find it exciting. I remember when I was buying most of my books on Amazon.com, and this little voice in my back of my head that I never listened to, it said, "You should be buying Amazon stock instead of buying books." And I kept buying books because that's what I like, and I never bought any stock. And then Amazon stock went through the roof, and they're the hottest retail company in the world now, and they're an incredible success story. But what if you're saying it had been true? What if I, as an early Amazon customer, was forced to buy Amazon stock to buy books? Then every time that I had leftover change from my Amazon stock, I was essentially holding value in the company that I liked because they sent me books, and I would likely spend that for more books a few weeks later. That's not exactly bad. I could make money and get
not just bad, but once you saw that their value was increasing, you would most likely, the logical thing to do would buy more, because anyway, you're like, yes, I'm always buying books, so might as well purchase a little bit more of their token, because eventually I'm going to want to buy another book, and by that time their stock price or their token value would increase, and then I'd have, you know, more buying power.
Now, it sounds very democratic and it sounds very good, but also we're talking about Amazon where the value went up. In the same way, if I had bought Blockbuster stock and I was renting movies at Blockbuster, as I often did, and it kept going down and it kept going down, all my change would be worth less. I could rent less movies. The more I believed in Blockbuster, the less movies I could rent.
Of course, yeah, it definitely has to go both ways. For
so it seems like we're exposing people. It's almost like we had these spacesuits on to protect us in the financial world, and that as much as everyone hates the banks and they hate the stock market companies or whatever, these suits were protecting us. But now we're going to go out without the suits. And some people are exposed to great gains and they made all their money on Ethereum, or they made their money on this ICO or whatever. And other people are exposed to horrible losses. And I think that as a society, we have to be able to accept that. And that's where we get into this libertarian versus, I don't know if you want to call it socialist or whatever, more controlled government, more protective government versus no government at all, or an uncaring government. What do you think about that?
Right. I mean, I'm for the least amount of government possible. Because throughout history, you usually see that the government serves itself and it doesn't serve the people, and that's really not the deal that you agree to as a citizen of your country, right? So least government possible is what I would advocate, and you're right about, you know, being exposed, and you know, eventually, I think that's what will happen, you know, that, you know, everybody will have their own token, their own currency for their own platform or business. And, you know, you as a person should have, you know, the option to, you know, transact with them, do business with this person or not, you know, whether or not you feel like that's the best option, or if it's a big risk, you won't do it, or maybe you'll only buy enough Walmart tokens to do your grocery shopping today and not keep any because you're, you know, worried that you might. You know, I think as long as all the options.
Oh, looks like we might be having some caller issues. I'm going to mute you for just a second while we get that fixed. But yeah, I agree. What's interesting, you express that you want less government, you want a small government, and I get called a statist all the time because I believe in seatbelts and airbags and a variety of other government services. But what I think is so interesting about Bitcoin and what we were talking about earlier with the Pandora's box and this thing that comes out, and it doesn't matter whether you like it or don't like it, it's going to change your reality. It's going to change your society. And that Bitcoin on a long timeline, not in 5 years, not in 10 years, but when Bitcoin or something like it is the only money, as a government, I might not be able to collect the kind of tax revenues to pay for a large state. So whether we want government controls, whether we want the FTA or we want the EPA or we want any of these things, it might not matter. We might we might just not have the money. Which again, from a libertarian perspective, you could set up a voluntary EPA or a voluntary IRS. If you like the IRS and you like what they're doing to collect money and help the government build things, you can donate money here. And the more donations the IRS gets, the more examiners they'll hire. The more donations the FDA gets, the more food that they'll survey. If they don't get any donations, they don't survey any food, society gets sick, we're less productive. Maybe next time we invest more in the FDA, but this would be a governmental model for a tax-starved government that can't get any taxes because they can't get any Bitcoin, because with Bitcoin, you can't just lean on the money to take it. With the current government, with the US government, the money and everything, you just freeze the account. You just call up the bank and say, hey, freeze the account. And it's not a technical term. The money's not frozen. They just turn your account off with their centralized system. With Bitcoin, there's no one to call up. You can't freeze any accounts. So it's very different. Let's see. Caller, are you with us?
Yes, I am. Yeah, I was just having some technical issues here. I think I had another person try to call in or something. But yeah, I completely agree with you on that. You know, it's probably scary for people that don't understand what's happening, you know, and honestly, my advice to anyone is get educated. You know, this is, like you said, it's Pandora's box. It's been opened. There's no way to put it back, or, you know, go back in time and undo it. So the best thing to do is to educate yourself, learn everything about it, because you will eventually be exposed to it, and you will eventually have to get involved some way or another, you know. And it's probably the best opportunity right now for people to get in between, you know, the people that know about Bitcoin, the people that don't, and just try to help bridge the gap. You know, I feel like that's my responsibility now.
Well, exactly. And like most other things, you're not going to learn about this on TV. You might get a little of the window dressing. You might get the idea to do some further study. But like always, the answer is out there on the internet. It takes research, which is a complex task. You need to read one article, read another article, compare the two articles, compare the reason why they wrote the article, maybe read a third or fourth article, different sources, different levels of the media. Even with Bitcoin, it's amazing. You can go right down and read the words of the programmers. You could join the mailing list. You could read the archives of the mailing lists. You could try to understand their personalities and what projects they're working on. And so left this project to start this one and so forth. There's a ton of information, but you can't just take it in blindly. You have to take it in and compare it with the other information and make your own decision about what you believe.
That's very true. Yeah, very true. You know, for too long, I feel like the generations before us, you know, they relied so much on the news, you know, like the newspaper or you know, the whatever you watched on TV for, you know, to report on the news honestly. And, you know, we've obviously seen that that's not the case nowadays. Probably wasn't back then either, you know, and now you have to do your own research. You have to do your own research. You have to make up your own mind, make up your own opinion on things. You can't just, like you said, blindly follow any article or any one platform.
There's also some Heisenberg uncertainty with the news. It's a bit like the Kurosawa movie Rashomon. Everyone tells the same story from their own perspective, and we look at them and they're completely different stories. We have no idea what really happened. And then sometimes we don't even know the motives why things happen or the reason that they happen. And there are so many ways of looking at things. So it is good to have an open mind and to be able to take in research from different sides, to read people you disagree with, to watch things you disagree with, and just to understand what the other side might be thinking.
Very true. Very true. Hey, man, I have to run. Thank you very much for having me on your show.
And they loved your call. They want to say, do you have a Twitter address? And just say your name again. The chat was really enjoying your call.
My name is Mustafa, and I'm at the Mad Egyptian. That's DA, like D as in dog. The Mad Egyptian on Twitter and everywhere else. Yeah, man, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. I'll definitely call back.
Yeah, thanks so much. Give us a call again soon. It's good talking to you, Mustafa.
You too. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right. And if you'd like to call us, you can call us at World Crypto Network, all one word, on Skype. We're just hanging out, doing the Bitcoin chat. We do have the Bitcoin group coming up at 1 o'clock West Coast time. That's about an hour from now, hour and 12 minutes. They're talking in the chat about books. They're suggesting The Creature from Jekyll Island. That's a book. They're disagreeing with who wrote it. There's Secrets of the Federal Reserve by Eustace Mullins from 1952. And then there's some disagreement. They might not like Mr. Edward G. Griffin. He's kind of the voice of some conspiracy theory videos. And then I did read his book, The Creature from Jekyll Island, about the creation of the Federal Reserve. It's a history. It's compiled from other sources. It's a little conspiracy theory in its presentation. I wouldn't say that it's an unbiased history. He does present a lot of primary source quotes, and you can look at those and say those are true. But then when you look at what he does around it, he has a very a bias. He has a bent. He delivers a message, but that's his choice to deliver his message that way. If we don't have another call, we're going to look for a quote from the Book of Satoshi. Let's see. BTC vulnerability. Massive attack against BTC system. Is it really? And this is a quote from a user on July 7th, 2010. He says, Hi, I'm sorry if I don't understand any concept. What do you think if anyone intruder will buy up Bitcoin currency and erase all binary data? This way can destroy Bitcoin systems. Is BTC network protected against that attack? And Satoshi Nakamoto replied on July 9th, 2010. He says, what the OP described is called cornering the market. When someone tries to buy all the world's supply of some scarce asset, the more they buy, the higher the price goes. At some point, it becomes too expensive for them to buy anymore. It's great for the people who owned it beforehand because they get to sell it to the corner at crazy high prices. As the price keeps going up and up, some people keep holding out for yet higher prices and refuse to sell. He has an example here that he's quoting from Wikipedia entry of cornering the market. He says, the Hunt brothers famously bankrupted themselves trying to corner the silver market in 1979. Brothers Nelson Bunker Hunt and Herbert Hunt attempted to corner the world's silver markets in the late 1970s and early 1980s, at one point holding the rights to more than half the world's deliverable silver. During Hunt's accumulation of the precious metal, silver prices rose from $11 an ounce in September 1979 to nearly $50 an ounce in January 1980. Silver prices ultimately collapsed to below $11 an ounce 2 months later. Much of the fall on a single day, now known as Silver Thursday, due to changes in the exchange rules regarding the purchase of commodities on margin. So it's just worth noting that all of these things have happened before and they will happen again. Satoshi describes how difficult it can be to corner a market and how many have tried in the past. So it seems unlikely that you'd be able to corner the market on Bitcoin and perform the attack mentioned by the OP. It's a good quote from Satoshi. And if you'd like to read more quotes from Satoshi, I definitely recommend Phil Champagne's book, The Book of Satoshi, the collected writings of Bitcoin creator Satoshi Nakamoto. And it's funny, I got this book from Phil at the Miami Bitcoin convention, which is going on now. I was there 3 years ago. And he says, "Two mad Bitcoins. You are very entertaining. Keep up your good work. Phil Champagne." So a signed book of Satoshi. Very cool. Thank you, Phil, for the kind gift. Very much enjoyed it. And remember, these are just the emails of Satoshi Nakamoto and the public posts. That's what it's come to here, that in a way, it's collected for you like a Bible or like a history of a great person. Because obviously Satoshi or the Satoshi team is a great person. They did an incredible thing inventing Bitcoin and giving us the idea of cryptocurrency. Just looking through, XC is writing to him, and looks like they're having a long discussion and debate. This is from the chapter on the Bitcoin limit and the profitability of nodes. XC wrote, "Nothing to sweat, people. Nobody ever died of a deflationary spiral. I agree with I am not anonymous. The market will choose the best Bitcoin-like Satoshi. I happen to believe, however, that the rules that Satoshi has founded Bitcoin on will be more than adequate for the future of a thriving Bitcoin economy. Everybody knows how fast the supply of Bitcoins will grow. It's set in stone in the rules of the programming and the Bitcoin network. While it's true that there's not a currently existing fully fleshed out market to truly price Bitcoins, such markets and exchanges are being developed. As far as the future would-be Bitcoin generators are concerned, the question is not how much will demand to compensate for his cost. The question he'll be asking himself is, given the current market values and my ability to utilize electricity and CPU resources, is it worth it for me to generate Bitcoins? If the answer is yes, he participates. If it's no, he stops trying to mine for Bitcoins and focuses on trading tangible assets with Bitcoins, serving as an appropriate intermediary. If he's not sure, he tries his hand at it for a while and then makes a final decision. The number of nodes and associated computational CPU power will be in flux, and that competitive flux will allow for the cost to approximate value, not the other way around. Value being set by the markets and the demand for use of Bitcoin as a trade intermediary, a money. In the far future, the competition of transaction costs will play a far more important role for the would-be node operator. It's interesting to hear them describe Bitcoin mining as generating, and also to say CPU power, as this was obviously years before the development of ASICs or application-specific integrated circuit. I think I might have gotten it. But basically, ASIC chips are designed to only mine Bitcoin. They don't do anything else. And they weren't around at this point. So we were still mining Bitcoin with CPUs and then GPUs. As he says, contrary to the paradox of thrift argument you present, collecting Bitcoins and saving them with the hopes of earning purchasing power through deflation is not a bad thing. It will allow for the pooling of Bitcoin capital and make the purchases of larger capital investments possible. In the future, there might even be Bitcoin banks that lend out saved Bitcoins with market-set interest rates, thereby diminishing the effects of hoarding. All this wonderful saving, however, comes at a price: delayed gratification of present desires. From the perspective of the would-be saver, the question will always be denying present desires to purchase real tangible assets now versus the future possibilities of purchasing more later. This time present preference naturally varies with people and in different circumstances. And this is a big point. A lot of people are having this problem now where they want to buy something now, like a house or a car, or pay off some debt, something that would be of great value to them. But they know that Bitcoin's going up. They just know it in their bones. And even now, as we're in this bit of a price decline or whatever you want to call it, they know that it's going up, and they know if they just wait, they could pay off 4 times the debt or buy 4 of the houses or 4 of the cars or get a really nice car. This keeps people holding Bitcoin. It's part of the DNA of Bitcoin. It's part of the way they designed it. And one of the reasons they designed it that way, we talked with the last caller about how 80% of the Bitcoins that there are in the world are mined. We are 80% mined out. Even I had a disagreement with a Wired writer because he wrote that 100% of the Bitcoins would be mined out in 2020. And the actual number was 99%. And to me, those were completely different numbers. And I needed that clarification. To him, it was okay to say that it was totally mined out, because 99% is almost totally mined out. And 80% even is almost totally mined out. XC continues. He's writing back to Satoshi here. He says, given the fact that Bitcoins are, by their electronic nature, easily divisible, prices will be able to easily adjust to deflationary pressures. If too many are savings, prices will fall and the rate of interest will go down. This encourages demand, lower prices, and decreases the desire to save, less interest. And Satoshi wrote back to him. He said, excellent analysis, XC. That's pretty great to get a compliment from Satoshi. Kind of jealous. He says, a rational market price for something that is expected to increase in value will already reflect the present value of the expected future increases. In your head, you probably do a probability estimate balancing the odds that it keeps increasing. In the absence of a market to establish the price, New Liberty Standard's estimate based on the production cost is a good guess and a helpful service. Thanks. The price of any commodity tends to gravitate towards the production cost. If the price is below cost, then production slows down. If the price is above cost, profit can be made by generating and selling more. At the same time, the increased production would increase the difficulty, pushing the cost of generating towards the price. So what they're saying here is that Satoshi expected, or at least thought in an economic sense, that it was possible that the cost that it takes in electricity, in chips, in mining power to generate a Bitcoin would be related to the actual price. In actuality, I think we've seen a huge spread in these prices. I think that it costs around $1,000 to make a Bitcoin, and they're worth $20,000. So there is a great deal of potential profit there in the mining game still. I'm not sure if it's that much, but you get my point. He says, in later years, when new coin generation is a small percentage of the existing supply, the market will dictate the cost of production more than the other way around. And I think this is one of the points that we're getting close to with this 80% mined out. The market now is driving the cost of production. So it's become separated from the actual cost. And now the value is not based upon what it costs to make a Bitcoin. The value is based upon what people think the value of a Bitcoin will be in the future. And a lot of these people are the same people that XC is describing, the people who are holding, not buying things, holding, not buying things. And they keep doing this over and over again. And in a way, that's providing a base for Bitcoin's value. Satoshi finishes out the chapter saying, at the moment, generation effort is rapidly increasing, suggesting that people are estimating the present value to be higher than the current cost of production. And if anything, that's only accelerated recently with the media getting involved, so many of these governments and central banks sniffing around Bitcoin, and of course, all of Wall Street and the futures markets showing their own interest in Bitcoin. We're going to go over to the chat, see how the chat's doing. They say Bitcoin's another pyramid scheme. It's going to zero. BitConnect is Satoshi's true vision. Satoshi is our guide. Salt is the next BitConnect. But what about pepper? And Peppercoin ICO is a winner. Someone actually said it in the chat. That's the thing. I would say I stole your joke, but Bitcoiners think the same thoughts. They're on the same connected lines. It's funny stuff. They say, get upset again more. I'm not sure what I was upset about. Roger Ver tried to steal BCC. That is true. He tried to steal the BitConnect ticker symbol. That's the main reason that I knew what BitConnect was, because I knew that it was the Bcash ticker symbol confusion where they tried to change their symbol to BCC, found it was taken, and then found that BCH, Bcash, was a much better symbol that described their project a lot easier. So we're talking about the Titanic. Sometimes a ship hitting an iceberg and sinking is just a ship hitting an iceberg and sinking. I don't know if we really want to get into the Titanic thing. You can go back and look at the passenger manifests. A lot of important people were on the Titanic, and a lot of important people's enemies were not on the Titanic, the way it worked out in actuality. But, you know, you can look at anything that way. Interesting theory about Elon Musk being Satoshi. What's the best evidence for it? Well, I think part of the best evidence is that everyone knows Elon Musk is a genius and they're very impressed with his work with X.com, merged into PayPal, then taking his PayPal fortune and gambling it on the solar company and then gambling it again on the SpaceX company and his drive to go to Mars and to push humans into space. I think we want Elon Musk to be the creator of Bitcoin. We want him to be the Tony Stark, the Iron Man, who comes down out of the sky and tells us all the truth. I think that's it, though. I think it's the want. And again, it's about parallel construction and parallel creation. There's this idea in films and in books and in art that many people have the same idea at the same time. And it seems almost improbable. You know, you look at Van Gogh's Starry Night and you look at someone else's Starry Night and you look at other pictures of the sky and the stars, and there's a lot of similarities, even though they lived in other places and maybe never had the long distance communication to be able to see everyone's artwork. And we discover all these ideas at the same time. And it's not quite the same thing with Hollywood movies when they have the imitation volcano movie and the other volcano movie. That's more of a strategy to have studios fighting each other. But when you look at Elon Musk and Satoshi, he's got all the same ideas. He wants a cryptocurrency for the internet. He tried to make it with PayPal. He found that he couldn't make it because PayPal, if it was a currency, if it was spread out, if they didn't control it in every way, it could easily be used for money laundering. And that's what we're seeing now with Bitcoin. And of course, you need to just take away the nasty word money laundering and go with the nice word people are free to spend their money anywhere they want, any way they can. And then you're saying, oh, you mean monetary freedom? Oh, yeah, I could see how you'd be against that if you were a big government or what had you. Looks like we almost had another call. Let's see. We're going to go to the phone lines here. We are Skype at World Crypto Network on the Skype. How's it going, caller? You're live on the World Crypto Network. Oh, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Sound quality is really bad. I can't understand you.
What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Switzerland.
Switzerland. All right. Well, I can hear you fine. So what are your thoughts about Bitcoin?
My thoughts about Bitcoin. Very nice. Very happy. Since 5 years.
It's been good since 5 years. What do you think about the altcoins?
What do I think of altcoins? I think most of them are crap. There's a few perhaps interesting ones that have potential. Like I'll hold most of my portfolio in Bitcoin, and I have some Monero, some Ethereum, and some IOTA, like small portions.
And do you have a question for the audience, or what do you think about the future of Bitcoin?
The future of Bitcoin, I think it's gonna go down a while now and come up later this year. And yeah, I have a question about the Lightning Network. Don't you think the Lightning Network is gonna empower a lot the exchanges?
Oh, I think it's possible, but I think right now the exchanges don't think that. I think that Coinbase and blockchain.info haven't been moving to adopt Lightning or to develop wallets to get prepared for that. So I think we might be getting a little feedback. Oh no, not that one. So we've seen a lot of. They need to be more wallet development. I'd like to see more people working on Lightning wallets, and if they really believed it would benefit, I would assume they'd be working on it. I do think it's a new avenue for fees, for miners, for exchanges, for a lot of people to get the fees. And I do think it's the future of Bitcoin scaling and an exciting project. But we'll have to see. Does that answer your question, or do you have more details?
Yeah, I have the how do you say, the worry that it's got to put the exchanges really in the center of the Lightning Network. Because like if Alice wants to transfer to Bob Bitcoin with Lightning Network, it's probably going to go from Alice exchange to Bob exchange to Bob. So probably all connections are going to go over the exchanges. So these are going to be central nodes like for the Lightning Network. Isn't that
It could work out the way the hub and spoke model. It could be exchanges. It could be new players that jump up to be Lightning Network hubs. We don't know how difficult it would be to set up a Lightning hub. There might be a lot of new players. We might even see traditional finance players try to get in, become these middlemen that pass around the fees. I don't think we know yet, but I do understand people's fears, and they're uncertain about the Lightning Network. But remember, it is for smaller amounts. You can still use the Bitcoin network. You just have to pay a greater fee.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, see, that's true. Lightning is just for small transactions.
But I will try to get some Lightning developers on, and maybe we can talk to them. I know that they had said that credit unions and the idea that there could be an institutional or a dedicated and maybe professional node out there that is, processing a lot of transactions, collecting a lot of digital IOUs. So that was in the general model. I don't know if they've put any kind of a limit in to try to restrict those nodes or to try to protect people's transactions, or it is possible that the Lightning Network is a lot more person to person than the way that we're thinking about it, and that there would be so many thousands of people on that are connected to so many other people. Maybe if they even had connection exercises to improve the network, like sending transactions to everybody and trying to get people more interlinked and to create a more diverse web of connections, maybe things like that could improve the network and not have such a need for this hub and spoke design with these hubs that are causing people a lot of worry. But I don't know. It's new technology. It's being developed right now. And what's also nice about this is that we don't have to just say we're afraid of hubs and we don't understand Lightning and we're concerned. We can say that directly to the developers. We can say that to the people that they're working with, and we can get answers from them, and we can even influence the design. If this is a problem, if other people see this as a problem and we all agree Lightning Network can't go forward unless we fix this design problem, and if there is a solution, and usually there is, we could find it. So
yeah, that's true. I have to try it out and then see how it goes.
there we go. We'll have to see how it goes. Well, thank you so much for your call, and thanks for listening.
Thanks for having me. Great pleasure.
Very good. So we've had calls from all over the world today, and we are still available at World Crypto Network on Skype. You can call us up. We'll chat. So we got another call coming in. Daniel, how's it going? You're live on the World Crypto Network.
Echoes.
Echo. You got to have headphones.
Hello.
You got to turn the YouTube off. Where are you calling from? What's your question today?
Hi. Hello?
Hello, can you hear us, Daniel?
Yeah. Oh, it's okay. You're talking to me. All right. Hey, I was your last call yesterday.
Excellent.
All right. I was actually not quite prepared, so I didn't bring up what was most important actually for me, and not even told a little bit of a story about crypto also. So I'm gonna bring this up right now. Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. So in August, a great friend of mine that I know that he really can invest big time into crypto and actually make money out of it. I explained to him that, okay, instead of just keeping everything in fiat, and then although Wall Street is going really like outrageously up, and it's actually predicted to even go even higher due to hyperinflation. At least that's what I've heard from various sources, not only Cliff High, that's the main one, but other sources too. And he just said, no, I don't believe in Bitcoin. I'm really irritated about Bitcoin because the government is against, and what I hear on the TV is what I hear on TV, that it's really bad, la 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 la. So I just said, hey, remember, you would have put right now 5,000 euros, because I'm in Finland, so you put 5,000 euros. At that moment, Bitcoin was at $1,800. So it would give me, at that moment, I remember 3.7 Bitcoin. And at the end, in August, in December, I came up to him again when it was around 18,000. And I said again, so think about it. If you had, for example, 50,000 in money, in your total money in the bank, and you had given me 5,000 of this 50,000 that you had, this 5,000 would cover the 90% that you left in that you would have left in the bank, gaining that interest of 2% or 3% in 6 months.
Well, sure. He could have made a lot of money on Bitcoin, and we all could have made a lot of money on Ethereum, or name your altcoin, whatever you got. But what I think your friend is expressing is that he doesn't like risk, and that to him getting that 1 to 2% is fine because there's no risk for him. His bank accounts are insured. He knows where Bank of America is. He can drive down there and wave his fist at the physical building and demand his money back. And at a certain point that'll work, and at a certain point that'll stop working. And we saw in Cyprus when they limited the ATMs to $100 a day, and people couldn't feed
took
their
60% of over the higher people that, I mean, the people that had more than 100,000, I think they took a good percentage of their.
Yeah, well, yeah, in the Cyprus situation, they believed a lot of that was foreign money, and that may be mafia money or some other kind of ill-gotten money that was laundering through Cyprus, and they were in desperate situations, so they do what governments do in desperate times, and they took the money. So I think what's interesting is that your friend, if he had bought Bitcoin and put it in a hardware wallet, he would have total control over it. If he really understood the private keys and the way the system works, and the way you can put it in a safe deposit box, and once it's stored, it's just stored, and it's an amazing thing. But how to convince these people? I don't think you can. I think, unfortunately, as much it'd be nice if we could convince all of our rich friends to buy Bitcoin, and then for them to be happy and presumably give us a small cut or a taste as a friendly thing to do. That would be great. But I don't think we can. I don't think they're ever going to want the kind of risk that comes with Bitcoin if they already have money. And if they're big gamblers, they're going to get in it right away. They're already going to be in it. They're already be out there gambling. But a lot of people just aren't big gamblers, and you have to let them make their own choices. And unfortunately, you look at this, it's 11,000 right now. It could be 25,000 soon. And we'll have to go to our friends again and say, yes, you could have doubled it. And maybe they'll get in then. Maybe it's the endless doubling But again, you have to say that it's risk. You have to respect your friend's desire not to have risk.
Of course, and it's not that. It's just I made him. I made him open his eyes the way that I explained it, that he could have recovered the 90% that he would have left in the bank and the 10% put into the Bitcoin, that he would have recovered that. And still,
I had a friend sitting next to me at work, and every day he would tell me to buy Ethereum. And one day we even had the discussion about it where we said, okay, well, if Bitcoin goes up to $1,000 and Ethereum goes up to $300, you know, you'll have a lot of money at $1,000 Bitcoin and you'll feel good. But you would have 3 times as much money at $300 Ethereum. And he said it to me, and he was totally right. And the way things worked out, he was totally right. It went to 300, it went to 1,300. Bitcoin went up to as well, but not as much. And even though he was right, I couldn't move on it. I couldn't move on it. So
good questions. Three books on crypto that you think it's really worthwhile read.
Well, it's tough. I mean, I love books. I love publishing and things. But crypto's so new. To me, it's an internet thing. So to me, I go back to the early Andreas Antonopoulos videos. I like the one where he's on a stage with the big letters that say Bitcoin behind him. That was one of the first ones I saw, and he got out there and he marched around. And the thing about Andreas is, you know, I know him personally, but I think we all feel like we know him personally because he's just a computer geek out there expressing his ideas. And he's really good at expressing them. And he's thought up these metaphors like the sewer rat and how Bitcoin is down there in the mud, getting all the viruses, getting all the diseases, yet surviving. And the opposite would be the bubble boy. Bubble boy is the financial system, and he has to be protected by all these rules and all these regulations and things, whereas sewer rat's just out there getting the diseases, doing its thing. And that's what I would say is listen to Andreas videos. If you want something technical, read Andreas's Master Bitcoin book. That's a hard book. If you want something less technical, just thoughtful, his Internet of Money speeches collections are really cool. And again, it's just the written words of his speeches. So I would say the Andreas books.
I had one last thing before I cut off. Crypto kitties, a very interesting idea. That the token is not, all tokens are not the same value. When you go buy any token nowadays, it's one token is 0.1 or 10 cents, let's say, or 0.1 Ethereum or whatever the value. In this crypto kitty thing, each token has its own value. It can be 20 Ethereum. It can be 0.0000003 Ethereum, you know? It's a very interesting idea that they have. The only problem is when you go see your own crypto, so since you have the token and it's on ERC20, it's ERC20 based, you should see it in your Etherscan. For example, in the Etherscan IO, you see your Ethereum address, and in that list, it doesn't appear this token. Something for people to think about.
Well, I definitely like the idea of crypto kitties, and I like the idea of collectible tokens.
On Etherscan IO, it doesn't appear the token at all.
Yeah, that sounds like a technical issue they're having with Ethereum and the way the tokens show up. I know when we did a similar project called Curio Cards that's still being worked on, we were using My Ether wallet, and you were able to add custom tokens to the wallet. And then later someone did a fork of My Ether wallet that automatically had our custom tokens. But the idea that we tried to develop with Curio Cards, and they're still working on, it's at Curio Cards or at My Curio Cards, and you can check them out, is that tokens could be unique like baseball cards. And I've always been a baseball card collector, and then a book collector, and then video game collector, and whatever else, and movies and things. And you're always trading them. They have different values and different rarities. And even though it's a little piece of cardboard, a Jose Canseco rookie card is worth more than another card because of what they printed on there. But what's so great about Curio Cards or crypto kitties is that they can prove that they're cryptographically rare. And they can say, we printed one of these cards, or we printed 100 of these cards, and that's all they're ever going to be. But much like Beanie Babies or baseball cards, they have a specific exemption in the law for collectibles. A collectible is a product that the person who owns it brings the value to it. You could look at gold and you could say gold has a certain value because people will trade for it and people hold it. But gold also has a certain value because you use it in computer chips or you use it in jewelry. It has actual uses. So gold is not a Beanie Baby. Gold can be used for something as well as the speculatory value. But when you look at something like a crypto kitty or a curio card, it's a lot like a Beanie Baby. You believe that the Beanie Baby have value, so you pay a lot of money for it on eBay. The company prints a certain number. So yeah, I do think it's an interesting idea. It was really impressive the way that their evolutionary model allowed them to catch fire. People were so excited to have a unique crypto kitty that it took fire. And then, of course, it clogged up the Ethereum blockchain. That was pretty embarrassing for Ethereum, and I'm not sure how they're going to solve that scaling problem long term.
Because then everybody, almost anybody could do anything in terms of transferring anything. Ether Delta was jammed. Everything, the whole platform was jammed, and your tokens are stuck, and you want to get rid of some to buy other.
That's the problem when your crypto kitty tokens are in with your.
Nobody can do anything about it. It's really frustrating.
They're in with the same service that you're doing your ICO tokens, and the same system you're doing in your important finances on are clogged because of these kitties. Yeah.
I have a few of them. That's how I convinced actually a few people to get into crypto.
Hey, whatever it takes, whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes, yeah. Then they got interested in the other ones. This was more like for the kids to see the kittens, la 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 la. And then they got into the other tokens. It's very interesting how they got into it.
It's very cool. It's got to start somewhere. Thanks so much for your call, Daniel. We've got to move on, but give us a call. Tomorrow we'll chat again soon.
Bye.
Thanks so much. Oops. Sorry about that. Still working with the system. Not trying to be rude. We did have one more caller. I want to give them a call back, see if we can fit them in. We are heading towards the end of the show here around 12:30, but we're going to be right back. Hello, caller. You're live on the World Crypto Network. What's your name and where are you calling from? Nope, not quite ready for Skype. We got the connection through, but there was no one there. So we'll see if he can call us back. But we are on World Crypto Network on Skype, all one word if you want to call us. We're getting ready for the Bitcoin group at 1 o'clock. Haven't had a lot of time to prepare or gather guests, so it might just be the old Tom and Vortex Bitcoin group. But, you can't beat that. We've got some good topics to talk about. And we'll probably have time for questions at the end if there are fewer guests. Let's see. We do have a call. Hello, caller. You're live on the World Crypto Network. How's it going? Nope. Still doesn't sound like we got that microphone working. But we're going to take another call. Give us a call if you can get that microphone going. Here we go. Online call. You can only have. I wish you could do multiple calls. That would be great. Let's see. Hello, caller. You're live on the World Crypto Network. How's it going?
Hey, I'm doing just fine. How about yourself?
Doing great. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
My name's Daniel. I'm calling in from Atlanta, Georgia.
All right, Atlanta, Georgia. What are you thinking about Bitcoin down there in Atlanta?
I'm pretty excited about it, pretty interested about it. But I was just actually curious about your opinion. So I think I remember you saying something along the lines of that people need like a spacesuit. And with current regulatory structures, like the way that they are, like how would you envision them sort of pivoting to kind of, I guess, I guess, accommodate the new technology.
Well, I think that's a lot of the difficulties with being a government these days is how do you protect your citizens from cryptocurrency at the same time letting them have that exposure to cryptocurrency that they want so they can get these profits or that they can use these services if they want to use a decentralized prediction market like Augur, if they want to use an identity product like Civic. You obviously aren't going to be able to stop them. The internet has shown time and time again, you can't stop people from sharing files. You can't stop people from viewing pornography. Whatever it is people want to do, they'll find a way. So right now, the governments are just, grasping at tools and grasping at straws, and they don't know what to do. I fear what everyone else fears, that the tool in the book will be overreact. And that's what we've seen in China. We've seen them overreact and ban this and ban that and try to put Pandora back in the box and try to have that ultimate protection for their citizens. On the other side, you have something like maybe Estonia or Switzerland, where they're like, you're an adult, do whatever you want, take your own risks. To find something in between there, something in the middle, that's what I would hope for government regulation and to protect citizens. Something like, I don't know that a warning flag is enough. It's never worked for cigarettes, but something like a warning flag. You're buying cryptocurrency. Be careful. Maybe you should hold your own private keys. I don't know. I don't know how to protect citizens. What do you think? Do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I guess I kind of I follow in the in the lines where Andreas is with the sewer rat metaphor. I really like that. I have to find that video. But yeah, so I just think that everyone needs to kind of take their own interpretation of how they want to interface with the technology and kind of like utilize it to better themselves. Because I mean, when it comes down to it, I think that ultimately government is a limited form of freedom. So if you wanted to look at like true freedom and true ultimate democratic efficiency, you'd have to look at it from like a blockchain perspective. You'd probably be, I envision, like, I think one of the other callers earlier said, like some altcoins becoming like businesses are today, where you can like use some of them for like different services, things of that nature. And that kind of like helps you become, bootstrap basically a citizenship or, comforts of daily life, something along those lines. But we'll just have to see, I guess.
I think to use my recent Europe trip an example, a country like Netherlands or Portugal, who's essentially decriminalized drugs, says to their populace, you're an adult. You can go out and eat chips and drink pizza and have, all this, eat chips and drink pizza. You can go out and have all these bad foods, and you can have all these drugs, and you can do all these horrible things to your body, and you can over drink and you can over pill and you can do whatever. And obviously it's going to work out badly. And we want to help you when it goes wrong. Like in Portugal, they have addiction counseling, and they'll give you the methadone or they'll give you the heroin, but you have to go through the counseling. And so they're trying to help these people. And much the same way with the cryptos, you've got to let people get into them, let them get messed up. They might lose some money, but at the end, they might gain some money, especially if they have better habits. And if they do better the second time, it's all about not investing more than you can lose and having diversification and other options. So
I just hope that the products that come to life are organic and hopefully a little bit more streamlined in regards to serving the people, or the mass majority or the super majority.
Unfortunately, I'm still on the we're going to see more scams before we see more good projects. And that there's going to be, with all the hype and all the excitement and all the money that's in this system, everybody's there with their hand out. We're seeing the Kin project and Kick launch their social media ICO. And then now we're seeing Facebook sniffing around the same idea. We're seeing Telegram, which I thought was kind of an established company, launching their own ICO. And pretty soon, Kodak is kind of a joke at this point, but if Microsoft or Facebook or a major player takes this ICO tool out for a spin, oh boy, we're going to see some copycats. It's going to be a dangerous market.
Yeah, it should be interesting.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your call. Give us a call again soon. Looks like we have another call. Caller, you're live on the World Crypto Network.
Hi, how you doing? Can you hear me okay?
Doing great. I can hear you fine. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Cincinnati, Ohio, actually.
All right. And what do you think about Bitcoin? Any question or anything excite you in the space right now?
Definitely. You know, I was just listening to some of the earlier callers and the frustration of trying to legitimize Bitcoin to family members or, you know, people at work or things of that nature. It gets frustrating because, you know, I can do a 400% gain in a matter of months, maybe not just on Bitcoin, but in the entire space. And people will say, well, it's play money, it's monopoly money, it's not real. And it just gets frustrating because people make fun of you, you know? But as far as Bitcoin right now, if you're going by what experts would, well, I take that back because I don't truly think there really are any experts in this field. We're all kind of learning as we go, no matter how much knowledge we have. But with Bitcoin dominance so low, my thought would be at some point it's got to go back up to where it was above 50 and 60% at some point. So that would tell me it's a good time to get into Bitcoin.
Well, you're talking to a maximalist here, so there's no disagreement on that. It is frustrating when your friends and family won't get into Bitcoin, and I think what's more frustrating for me is I've been in the game a long time, and certainly I dedicate a lot of my time to talking about Bitcoin and reading about Bitcoin, and this is the subject that excites me. And previously, I was excited by the MP3 and the BitTorrent and the internet itself and BBSs and network computers before that. And it's just a progression for me of new technologies. And I wonder why my friends and family didn't get into Bitcoin, why they didn't get a taste at $100 or $1,000. And I told them about it and I was excited about it and I dedicated my time to it. And I think a lot of people that watched my shows bought Bitcoin and made their own decision and used that as part of it. But then now when it goes up, when it's in the mainstream media, when it's $10,000 a coin, and you say to your friend who probably has about a $500 to his name, you should try to buy this thing that's $10,000 a coin. And even though you're getting $500 worth, you're still going to have more money. They still don't believe you. They're excited that it went up and it's in the media and they're all talking about it now. But they don't get, it's so difficult. I mean, even myself, when I found out about Bitcoin, you know, the first couple of years, I had it in my head I had to get $1,000 worth. But to me, I didn't want to lose $1,000 because that was a lot of money, and I worked hard for it. So I couldn't do it. I couldn't invest it because I was afraid that I would lose it. And of course, that was millions of dollars and all those things. But it's that all or nothing that I think makes it so hard for people. If they could buy $10, if they could buy $100, if the Coinbase website was written better and it just bought up a thing that said, hey, you know, buy $20 worth of Bitcoin and you don't have to buy a whole coin. If you could just get people started with small amounts, that's what I find. And even then it's crushing when you give your friend $1 4 years ago, now it's worth $40. And you're like, yeah, this could have been a lot more than $1. But at least they've got a chance of learning about it now. It's not over. There's lots of more ups in this game. There's lots of people that don't know about Bitcoin. If you think about your friends or your work or your social circle, all the ones that don't know about it, they're still going to be out there and they're going to be buying these coins in the future when it's 25,000, 50,000, 100,000. Who knows? It might just keep going.
Yeah, and I mean the extent to which it will replace fiat currency is of course, you know, a huge debate on a philosophical level. Because when we think about the utility of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies at the present time, someone like my mom, who's 70 years old, you know, really can't navigate the space the way some of the younger people that have grown up with computers. I'm in my 40s, so the internet just came into being when I was graduating high school and getting into college. So, you know, with that being said, I'm at somewhat of a disadvantage versus people in the younger generation who have grown up with, you know, a laptop or whatever right in front of them from day one at school. So I think as we go forward and the technology improves and we get apps on our cell phones and wallets on our cell phones and things like that, that it'll become much more accepted. And, the mainstream media and the powers that be, what their interest is to me obvious at this point in time, because anytime Bitcoin drops, like last week is a perfect example, the market lost, let's just say it was 40%. And they came out of the woodwork to talk about that. But when it goes up, when Ethereum goes up 4,000% in a year, it's like crickets chirping.
Well, and it's also when it goes up, they tell you about it, but when it goes down, they're too afraid to buy. They can't see the connection between those two. And it is frustrating. I hear what you're saying about the older generation and trying to get them into it. I remember trying to show my grandparents computers, and they didn't care about mice. They didn't want to use a mouse, and they didn't know how to move a cursor around. And you try to get them to use a microwave, try to improve their lives. And with something like this, where you're saying, hey, invest $100, invest $1,000, maybe this could pay for something important in the future. It's even more frustrating to have them not be into it. But, maybe you can set aside a little bit of your money or invest a little bit more and consider that family money. I think a lot of what's great about Bitcoiners is when they become millionaires or multimillionaires, they either just hold their coins or they, give coins or give value to their family and friends, and they help people pay off debts and go to college and other things that people can do that are good with money. And I think we're going to see more of that as Bitcoin goes up.
Yeah, the only regret I've had since entering this space about 7 months ago. So, admittedly, I am a newbie compared to someone like yourself. But my only regret is that I did not perform more aggressively from the beginning. That I did just kind of stick my toe in the water. And, I had the same attitude kind of as some of the people that I'm talking about right now, where you hear all this stuff and then it's like, then you get into it and you see that what's really happening. I mean, and there is risk, of course, there's always risk, but you can lose your money investing in the stock market, which is supposedly legitimate. And, your prospects of making 10% if you're a great investor. And, but you could also lose your money just as easily there.
It's definitely true. There's a lot of ways to lose your money. And yeah, I feel you for not going in enough sooner. I had all the same ideas about Bitcoin 4 years ago that I did now. But I still didn't take out a loan then. I didn't max out my credit cards. There was a lot of ways I could have gotten more money and put it into the thing. But still, it's about risk. And we're all risk averse. We all don't want to lose money. We all worked hard to get our money. And nobody knew how easy it would be to make your money in Bitcoin. No one knew how easy it would be to make your money in Ethereum or any of these other things. And maybe you make your money, then it goes back, or maybe you make it and you cash out and everything goes great. But yeah, we're all looking at this, and even now there are so many more people waiting on the sidelines to come into crypto. So I think there's more profit in the future.
Yeah, one question, and then I'll let you go because I know you have to move on. But what do you think as far as what stage we are in? They talk about this 3-stage thing where the smart money comes in first, then institutional money, then the general public. And then after that, like with the .com thing, we have a bursting of, if you want to call it a bubble. Where do you think we are on that paradigm?
Well, I'm much more for the Crossing the Chasm, the book that's about startups, where it talks about the different phases. And I think based on that book, we're more like an early adopter phase. We're still very early. There's no majority here. There's no late majority. And what that book talks about is the way that people adopt new technologies, like getting Facebook Messenger on your phone or using WhatsApp instead of using text messaging. It happens slowly, then it takes off. There's a lot of early people. The early people love new technology. They like to try things out. There's this whole middle majority, and the majority doesn't do anything until they see the early people doing it, until they see the early majority. And then there's a huge bandwagoning. So I think we're well before the bandwagoning. We've got a lot of time for this thing to grow. But it sounds like the dogs want to go outside, and then we've got to start the Bitcoin group really soon. So I think we're gonna have to let you go for today. Thank you so much for your call.
Appreciate it, man.
All right, and we're going to be opening up the call lines again probably tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow's Saturday. We might take the day off, but maybe on Monday. But right now, we want you to stay tuned to the World Crypto Network. We're going to be right back here in less than 28 minutes. Almost less than 15, really, if you do the math better, maybe 18 minutes. But we'll be back with the Bitcoin group. So subscribe down below to the World Crypto Network. Give us a thumbs up and a share. And if you did make Bitcoin on the price going up or down and you'd like to donate it, we have a QR code on the screen right here. If you'd like to subscribe with fiat money, we have a Patreon, and the dogs aren't going to wait to go outside any longer. So thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.